Lufenia Plus has arrived, and we're here to stop Pandemonium with a team of Queen, Cloud of Darkness, and Paladin Cecil. I'm Type Zoe, and welcome to the first fight of the era. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. So this fight is pretty hard without the Dawn LD. I would say it's pretty much night and day difference if you have his character and if you don't, but there's been quite a few creative runs, honestly, that haven't used any main party Zidane. I've been seeing lots of them made Italian, obviously, as both a call ability, like in my run, and as a main party unit. But I've also seen some non-turn deletion runs with a lot of buffing offensive characters like Tidus and Zell and Terra and Core, so there's really been quite a few options, and especially with Global, thanks to Core especially, and I guess early Octo helps a little bit, not too much, but there's definitely been some nice creativity for the fight, and I think that the community has done a nice job so far. So let's get into the fight itself, because there are quite a few mechanics in this one, and I want to spend more time talking about the actual fight mechanics rather than just like mumbling about whatever I usually talk about. So let's, without further ado, get into it. Okay, so beginning of the fight, there is a one-turn, I guess, benchmark before you immediately get attacked by Pandemonium, and he does his, like, I forget what the attack itself is called. I think it's like Divine Malice or something. He throws some tornadoes at you. He's a wind creature, that's what he does. But basically, it's a Brave Gain into AoE HP damage, so that's unavoidable, and you can't use any call abilities on the first turn of the fight. So what we do instead is we take a turn, we kind of let Pandemonium do his thing, and then we set up our debuff calls of Jack and Kurasame, who are basically going to be staying up the whole fight thanks to this team's delay and delete capability, especially with the Zidane friend. So now that Paladin Cecil's got his enchant up, we're going to be hitting much better damage, and that orb, you saw that it had 1 on the count, but it's not ticking even with Cecil's turns. That's because the secondary orb condition is of buffing an ability, which counts by +1, aka a stall, and then our Zidane friend who just came in there deleted and brought the +10. So we go for the delete on the first turn he comes in for orb management. That also gives him some time for HP regen and to grab the Paladin Cecil auras that come with it. And then we pop his burst finishers for some really nice damage, because what we're trying to do here is push Pandemonium past 80% with the Zidane friend still active, so I saved a bunch of zero lasers and CoD LDs for this purpose, just so I can make sure that Zidane would get here in time. That's why I kind of like slow rolled at the beginning of the fight, and as you're going to see, he summoned the Wind Aura again, which is an aura that doesn't let you do any Brave Gains, and it also blocks all forms of delay, which CoD team, not very productive if you're not delaying, you should just bring another character, so we really needed those to be gone, which is why we're using our friend so early, because the Wind Aura thresholds come at the beginning of the fight, 80% and 30%, so we're going to be using our Ami call for the last one, and our Zidane friend got rid of these two very nicely, and Queen comes back, and we're good to start wheeling on this guy. This is the most relaxed part of the fight, because Pandemonium doesn't have any threshold-based movements for another 20% or so, so we're kind of just wailing on him and keeping the delays up. I'm realizing that Luminous Blast has more brave hits here, so Cecil's damage will actually be better on it, rather than his skills, and I don't have to worry about the buffing condition because his HP plus doesn't buff, but I only have to use his skills once the orbs come back, so we're going to get a little bit of extra damage, which I think actually did come into play because this one has a very tight finish. The non-synergy teams, I've seen some really cool runs with even no friend units, but it's a pretty tight DPS check. It's 17 million for 80 turns, which doesn't sound bad in a vacuum, but the amount of tankiness that Pandemonium takes from 50% and especially 30%, he gets like a 200% defense spike or something absolutely crazy like that, which the way these defense spikes work is they kind of lower the ability of your defense down debuffs to power through them because the base stat isn't what's being raised, it's the modifier that's being raised. So you're going to see that if you have a defense spike of 400%, and your defense down call, like my Jack call at 50%, that's not going to be doing as much as like a higher base stat of defense with the lower modifiers. Like the higher stat of defense would only have, say, 150% modifier, and then if you're going from 150 minus 50, you're at 100 versus like 400 minus 50 is 350, so you can kind of see how the math works out there. But anyway, Pande's got his recast ready, and we don't want our debuffs to fall, so we're never going to be giving him another turn in this fight. And his turn has appeared on the order. He's a pretty fast enemy, to my knowledge. You can see he's kind of keeping pace with us, but CoD's coming up on another delay here, and we're going to start thinking about getting Pecil back into his normal rotations. I think I've got the LD prepped so that I can use it and then refresh the enchant just as it comes. Queen is really nice here for taking her instant turns. That's going to also come into play with CoD's burst effect and trying to maximize as much of that as I can. So still capping HP damage, surprisingly, but that's going to change pretty soon for everybody except Cloud of Darkness. So we've got that nice EX delay into the zero form, so that's going to give us a ton more breathing room, and we're just about to hit the threshold. I think this Pecil EX should do it? Yeah, it does. So here comes his second threshold attack. We're going to Tornado Zone Divine. There it is. That is the name. Dodged Queen, but we had the overhealing and the defense buff, so that wasn't ever super scary. It's these ads are the scarier part. I don't know if I talked about them during the first phase they came, but you need to take 15 consecutive actions or they disappear. So now that we've got our enchant and Pecil is still having his overhead, he's got one turn left on it, I think I go into burst here because I don't really have a choice to deal with the ads. CoD can't delay them fast enough since they're more of a single target delayer, so we're going to pop that Kurosame LD call for the increased weakness damage and go to town. So this damage phase, it doesn't look as impressive because the ads don't take any splash damage or any HP damage, except for I think the X-Death Void damage does hit them for some reason. I don't really know why that works, maybe because it's true damage. But the numbers don't look that impressive, but because they're all focused on Pandemonium, you can kind of see just how much CoD is doing here, and Pande's turn just got absolutely sent to the Shadow Realm, and we're going to have some nice good turns of follow-ups here, and that's about 10 turns taken. I get a DM from Kaiden. I hope he doesn't mind too much that he has a brief appearance in this fight. Good dude, check his YouTube out. I'll put it in the description, because why not? He was trying to help me with some Deuce stuff. We'll see if that works out later. But now that I've got CoD's follow-up going, I can go for the EX here, and we're going to try and take as few turns with CoD as possible. So I think Queen does get her EX here soon, which is good. This team doesn't have like any actual turn stealers other than Queen's Berserk phases to make the most of the follow-up, but CoD was really here for their actual damage and utility rather than just the follow-up abuse, so it doesn't matter too much that I don't capitalize that much of it. See, we're going to get another counter here and spend more time with the follow-up, the burst effect ticking, which is not the best, but as you can see here, we're pretty close to the orbs, or the ads, murdering us, so we're going to go into our summon here, and Pecil's going to refresh his overhead buff, and next turn he will enchant, so that works perfectly. Got those nice 2 turns back to back, so we'll get the enchant going again, and we're going to use his skills inside the summon, because those will tick the orb. Queen is going to get at least 1 phase worth of Balestro Lunge spamming for the CoD BT, so very nice. CoD does steal the break here, but that's okay. We're going to use a zero form for damage. Oh, nope, actually we're not. We're going to use Insulting Punches and save the zero form. I think I probably should have used a zero form there in hindsight, but it doesn't really matter that much. I think I knew because I was going to delete with, I think Pecil had the Amy call? It's Pecil or Queen, I don't remember who. Should be Pecil with the way I set this up. So we're going to go for the LD there on the consecutive turn, where stacks high. Yep, there comes the delete, I think. No, interesting. I actually... Right, so I was worried about damage rather than the Tornado Aura right now, because this team is pretty great at damage focus. Like, you're going to see CoD is pumping pretty respectable numbers for this far in the fight with the wind aura up. And I was worried about orb management, and now that I see Pandemonium's turn coming, I know it's time to kind of put the gas on and get rid of those ad turns and Pandy's turns. So I think the ads disappear in a couple. Okay, right there. I have perfect timing as usual to make me stumble on my words, but we're actually gonna skip Queen's EX for the rest of the fight because it's the damage isn't gonna be worth the orb ticking now that I've used my last delete, and CoD zero form is not an orb ticker, as well as Cecil enchant he has to manage. So Queens and Cecil are gonna be relegated to using their moves with buff upkeep on them because I'm like considering it here, and I forgot that Speed Rush doesn't hit the orb, so that was a mistake on my part. That absolutely should have been a Mana Sphere instead of a Speed Rush thrust. So I do have to keep going for the attacks here. The LD does buff, which is nice, and I wanted to get the high damage on the launch here, so I'm going to go for that LD and going to be using the zero forms. I'm going to stay at a nice 5 stacks for the EX next turn. So we're at 4 on the orb, and luckily Queen and Cecil have so many orb buffing moves, or this might have been a failed run, but as you see, I saved pretty much all my mana spheres, and their damage has dropped off a cliff. It is just COD, but 330,000 this late in the fight is, to put it simply, incredible. And it really shows like what the auras combined of Cecil and Queen can do with a character that has such good self modifiers like COD with their 50% crit damage boost and all the HP damage up from their darkness stacks and stuff like that. It's just super cool to see. So this last 3% is a struggle, but we're going to come up on it. We've got 3 on the orb, and we're going to keep going with those skills, even though they're not doing a ton of damage. And here I actually go for a break reset burst, knowing that I'm pretty much in the clear and I'm just trying to end the fight before Pandy gets a turn. So we're going to get another zero form here, and I knew that I had enough moves with buffs on them to finish this fight out. And I was hoping that the EX here from Cecil with the Light Force killed, and it did. So thank you so much for watching the first Leafenia Plus fight of the era. I'm super excited to be doing more, hopefully non-synergy runs, but also synergy because Sync and Ace are coming, and I can't wait for them. So thanks so much for watching, like and subscribe, and that's it. Sayonara. Thank you so much.